In episode 10 of Substance TV, we're going to be doing an exhaustive comparison between Donkey Kong Jungle Beat on the GameCube and Donkey Kong Jungle Beat on the Wii. Then we'll move on to Castlevania Dracula X for the Super Nintendo. And of course, we have a little juicy import surprise with Astra Superstars for the Sega Saturn. This is Substance TV. Good old Donkey Konga. Released in 2003, with a subsequent title aptly named Donkey Konga 2, released in 2004. Both games utilized a specialized controller called, well, what else? DK Bongos. Though that was the problem, as, well, you couldn't use it for anything else other than Donkey Konga 1 or 2. That qualm was quieted in late 2004 when Nintendo released Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. The story in this game is pretty much, well, the same we've seen in every other Donkey Kong game. You know, bananas. Since this game uses the DK Bongos, it's not exactly the standard D-pad setup. The controls are pretty simple. Hit the left bongo, Donkey Kong goes left. Vice versa, hit the right bongo, he goes right. There's a cool little feature of the DK Bongos, which is this little microphone that's in between the two drum heads. Now, it can pick up any kind of sound, like a clap or hitting the side of the drums, which will then in turn make you clap on screen. The clap can be used to fight enemies or get a helping hand from some of your monkey buddies, but its main purpose is to get bananas. And hitting both drum heads at the same time makes you jump in the air. It is true that you collect bananas in this game, but the way you go about it can greatly affect the amount of sweet potassium you receive. Look up there at the top left-hand corner of the screen. See that little barrel with a number? That represents something called beats. The more bananas you get, the more beats you get. Your beats are also your life bar, so get hit by an enemy, you lose beats. Here's the key. You can directly affect how much each banana is worth by performing combos, which in turn increases the worth of every banana you collect thereafter. So you've got 3 levels in each kingdom, and each kingdom is named after a fruit. And the last level in each of these kingdoms is the big bad boss. Some boss battles are one-on-one, kind of like a punch-out, dodging punches and kicks. And others you have to throw back charged coconuts. And still some, well, you have to attack a huge egg this giant bird's holding. I don't get why, it's just cool. And half the fun of the boss battle is banging on the DK Bongos furiously. Well, I'll admit, I like the visceral nature of the DK Bongos. Trying to do a backflip or a side jump or any kind of difficult action reliably can be a real chore. Stages where you have to ride this ram-looking creature called a hoofer require that you constantly hit the right bongo over and over again. It just gets tiring. It honestly would have worked a lot better as just a standard platformer that used the GameCube controller. Luckily for us, the Wii version does exactly just that, but I'll talk about that in just a second. From a graphic standpoint, the game looks absolutely stunning. It truly captures the fanciful look and feel of the jungle, but there are also a cavalcade of other environments, and not only do the levels look good, they're masterfully designed. The color palette is lush, with an attention to detail that is just insane. I mean, look at that! Look at the fur on Donkey Kong! The sound is rich and full, with the upbeat soundtrack that has a jungle feel with driving beats and hints of bongos and Latin sounds. While not a music game in practice, I like how many of your on-screen actions have an effect on the music. While the game was a critical success, it really wasn't as much of a financial success as Nintendo would have hoped for. In 2009, Nintendo released a retooled version of Donkey Kong Jungle Beat under their new Play Controls line. One of the changes for the better, I'd say, is the implementation of a health bar consisting of 3 hearts. Now you can control whether Donkey Kong goes left or right with the analog stick instead of hitting the right or left bongos repeatedly. From a graphical and design standpoint, some of the levels have elements changed, replaced, or removed compared to the GameCube counterpart. Overall, the contrast in picture is cleaner and more vibrant in the Wii version. When it comes down to it, the Wii version is hands down the better out of the two. The core gameplay is not too difficult and should be easily beaten by veteran platformers, but if you're looking to get a high score, it'll take a little more time and mastery of the combo system. Since the Wii is backwards compatible with the GameCube, most major retail stores still have an ample selection of used titles, so it shouldn't be too hard to track down. The GameCube version will set you back about $10 used, but more than likely you'll have to seek out a pair of bongos separately unless you're fortunate enough to find a bundled copy. The Wii version, on the other hand, should be very easy to find new for about $30. I know I've bagged on the GameCube version, but even with the control issues present, I would still recommend it to anybody who doesn't own a Wii. Sure, the Donkey Kong Country series is the seminal platforming series for old DK, but Donkey Kong Jungle Beat is a refreshing and fun twist that stands right up there with its elder brother from Rare. In late 1993, Konami made what some considered to be the best Castlevania game in the entire series when they released Dracula X Rondo of Blood for the PC Engine Super CD-ROM. Soon after, Konami announced the game would be ported to the Super Nintendo as Dracula X. But even more importantly, this was going to be coming stateside. Fans were more than a little disappointed when they got what would later be vilified as a gimped and weak semi-sequel port. After playing the game many years ago, I came to a very different conclusion concerning the quality of Dracula X. The story starts off several hundred years since the legendary Simon Belmont defeated Dracula. Of course, there always seems to be some band of evildoers hell-bent on resurrecting old Bat Breath. Now that old Drac is back, he's not just gonna resurrect the castle like he always does. No. He's gonna make it personal this time by taking a little gal named Annette hostage. Now, this all wouldn't be a big deal if Annette wasn't the girlfriend of, a certain Richter Belmont, who, also happens to be the descendant of the vampire-killing family named the Belmonts. And of course, like any good Belmont, Richter takes a hold of the vampire-killer whip and sets out to rescue the damsels in distress and vanquish Dracula once and for all. The gameplay follows the classic Castlevania formula to a T. Kill enemies, whip candles, pick up hearts, get sub-items, and find mysterious meat hidden in walls. You also have an item crash at your disposal, which is pretty much an uber-powered version of your sub-weapon. And it's no surprise you fight a boss at the end of each level. But before you get there, you have to traverse a gauntlet of platforming challenges in each level. Richter himself controls very well, just like his Belmont brethren. One interesting aspect is the branching paths, though not as many as its PC Engine counterpart. Just having the option of going to a different version of a stage is a nice little touch. I can still remember playing the first level and being blown away by that epic fire in the background. Sure, we know now that was nothing more than a simple Mode 7 scaling effect, but come on, even today that still looks great. Animation in both Richter and all his foes is smooth and slick. And it wouldn't be a Castlevania game without a laundry list of scenes and locations. You got the village, the castle, the forest, and of course, one of my personal all-time favorites, the gear-laden clock tower. See, this is just more proof that dark drab browns and grays aren't the only ways to express this mood. I gotta mention, the soundtrack for the Super Nintendo version of Dracula X is a translation or reinterpretation of the PC Engine original. And many of the staples in the Castlevania music have made a return. One would think that a downgrade from CD quality to a simple sound chip would be detrimental. But in actuality, many of the songs are arranged and, dare I say, sound better. As far as difficulty goes, the game's kind of like, no, don't jump with, go stupid producer. Literally everything is trying to kill you. Look, water is trying to kill you. One real complaint I had was the invisibility period between getting hit. It is by no means a walk in the park, so it will definitely take a little bit of practice and patience. Obtaining this game will come with a little bit of a price tag. Card-only copies run around $60, with complete copies going for even more. So really, if you put it into perspective, for the price of a new release on a next-gen console, it's not really an obscene price. Over the years, this game has gotten a lot of undeserved criticism. No, it is not an exact port of the original, but who cares? It's an amazing game in its own right and a welcome addition to the Castlevania series. Batman, Gremlins 2, Blaster Master. Coincidentally, all developed by Sunsoft in the late 80s and early 90s. But with the ushering of the 16-bit era, Sunsoft lost the magic they once had and, for some unknown reason, decided to suck. But somehow, some way, from the depths of craptasticness, Sunsoft re-emerged in the mid to late 90s. Though not with the traditional platformers or action-adventure games they were well known for, instead they released a slew of 1v1 fighters, starting with Galaxy Fight, then Waku Waku 7, and finally Astra Superstars. The story pits the champions of this magical kingdom against one another in a line of 1v1 battles to then determine who will face the evil Satan at the end, and hopefully bring peace back to the land. An interesting aspect of the game is at the first of each round. See, when you start a round, you get into this little dialogue between you and your opponent. The first option you choose cools them down, or in essence, makes them easier to play. The middle option is in the middle, it doesn't really do either or. And the bottom option, I guess something bad, and you say their mother's ugly, so then it heats them up and makes them more powerful. Astra Superstars is not your garden variety fighting game. First, the battles take place in the air rather than on the ground. The middle plane is your main fighting ground, but not only do you have a upper jump, you also have a lower jump, which adds an interesting mechanic. And instead of inputting commands via the D-pad and connecting it with a corresponding button, a la down to forward punch, all your attacks and special attacks are mapped to one of the 6 face buttons. It makes performing moves and combos, well, simple. Fights are hectic and frenzied with an unmatched speed, and doing supers couldn't be easier. Just press any 2 vertically aligned buttons for one of your 3 super attacks. Now, one familiar element from other fighting games is a power or super bar that stores your super attacks. Also similar to games like, say, Street Fighter 3rd Strike, is a star rating system that grades your performance based on how you do. The linking combo system works very well and can lead to some pretty amazing aerial feats. The basic gameplay premise is seemingly simple, but in actuality it's much deeper than it may seem at first glance. This game is a prime example of what the Sega Saturn can do when it comes to graphics. You know me and my love of that sweet, sweet color, but this game will cram color down your corneas. But the first time I saw Lettuce do his super move, my eyes begged me for the sweet relief as they witnessed flashing multicolored backgrounds and the screen zooming around with multiple scaling stars bouncing in my field of vision. Oh yes, it was as painful as it sounds, but my, what a beautiful sight it was. It's one of the first fighters to run in what's called high-res mode. Put simply, it's a mode that displays on-screen graphics akin to, something close to progressive scan. The characters themselves are animated very fluidly, and all the while running at a non-stop 60 frames a second. Now you may be asking yourselves, well, I know the Saturn is a 2D powerhouse, but come on, how is it doing all of these amazing things? Well, that is all thanks to a little thing called a 4-meg cart. See, it adds an additional 4 megs of memory, which gives the game extra animation, and more importantly, arcade-like loading with almost no waiting. The in-game music fits very well within the respective setting and venue. But in all honesty, the sound effects take a front row seat when it comes to the audio, with cartoon-like punches, kicks, hits, and powers of all kinds. And like any good fighter, the difficulty is adjustable depending on your taste. But what will be difficult is finding this game. The game is very rare, with copies going for over $100 on the open market. Since this game is prohibitively expensive, I can understand why everyone won't be jumping at the chance to pick it up. That being said, if you are fortunate enough to find it at a good price, it definitely can be worth it. I know full well Astra Superstars won't be seen at EVO or be heralded in as the most intricate and detailed fighter ever. On the flip side, that doesn't make the game any less fun or enjoyable. It is a blast to play and even more fun with a group of friends. That wraps up the 10th episode of Substance TV, and of course the big rebirth of the series. We hope you guys have enjoyed this episode and, hope it's worth the wait. We think it is. We put a lot of work into it, but we really want to hear what you guys have to say. We want to know what you think of it. Is the review better? Do you like the change? Do we suck? Whatever it is, make sure to go visit the website at substance-tv.com. Go to the forums, check us out, post a comment, send us an email, whatever you want to do, we would appreciate it. And I want to thank my good friend Mike Felix for letting me borrow his Nintendo Wii for the Donkey Kong Jungle Beat review. Now I know some of you have been saying to yourself,
"Give me Genesis!"
Well, fret not, my younger ones, because we have heard your cries and will be featuring a Sega Genesis game in the next episode. No, I'm not going to tell you what it is. You've just got to tune into the next episode to see what we're going to cover. And hey, if you enjoyed the show, favorite us on YouTube or subscribe to us or give us a 5-star rating or give us a comment. We are suckers for feedback. And thanks to everybody who's watched, to everyone who's subscribed, everybody who supported us, or has ever in any way helped us. We really appreciate it. Been a bit of a bumpy road, but from now on, Eric and I have got the show coming out month to month, so look for us next month for Substance TV Episode 11. Thanks for watching, and as always, game on.